this session. As you know, this session will have a keynote, and then we will have the first session on use cases. And since this is a session on use cases, I'd like to run a poll on trying to understand where do you think the use cases that are most compelling about digital identity. So please run the poll. You might want to put it up on the, yes. So here is the poll. Let me just go over it. What is currently the most prominent use cases of for digital identity for your country? Financial services, healthcare, education, travel and border, social protection and welfare, e-government services, and then digital identity is not yet in use. Okay, so select what's currently the most prominent. I mean, there could be many applications in your country, but select the one that you think is the most prominent use case in your country. Let's vote, please. And then we're curious to see how the community feels about use cases and what you think the scope and range of use cases for digital identity are. Okay. Operator, could you put now the real time? The real time. Okay. Operator, if you have enough votes, we can end. Okay. Yes. Could you put up the result? The result slide, please. Okay. So just end the poll and freeze the image and tweet it. As you could see, financial services seems to be the highest use case in any country, and it seems to be a clear winner over others. E-government is the second one, and then for the rest, it starts to get fragmented with identity not being used, and then travel is starting to come up. Healthcare is picking up, but still weak. Social protection and education are very weak. So anyway, this really validates our session this morning about the use of digital identity in the financial sector. Um, but before we get to that, we are going to have an inspiring keynote by somebody who has been in the government, who used to be the executive director of EU LISA. Many of you know the European organization called EU LISA. She was the executive director for many years, but who is now the chairman and CEO, chairwoman and CEO and president of the IN Group, which is the French government Imprimerie Nationale, which Agnès will explain. I have the pleasure and honor to actually welcome to the stage Agnès, who will deliver a view on how she thinks government and industry need to work together. And she's uniquely qualified to do this, given that she has been in both roles. So Agnès, could you please join me on the stage?
Good morning. Good morning. Early morning, busy morning, but fascinating topic. It's my pleasure to be with you today, and thank you for being in session. Joseph, thank you for inviting me to this compelling speech. I also appreciate your kind words. Indeed, my name is Agnès Diallo. I'm today the chairwoman and the CEO of IN Group. IN Group is a publicly owned company that is a leader in identity. We specialize in identity on all of the value chain, from the components all the way to providing identity systems. Before that, as Joseph reminded us, I used to lead EU-LISA. EU-LISA is one of the largest operational agencies of the EU institutions. It, in fact, developed all of the large-scale IT systems that manage the Schengen space. So whether you're crossing a border, whether you're managing migrant flows coming through to Europe through the Eurodac system, whether you are going through borders, uh, all of that data goes through EU-LISA. I'll come further down the line, I'll mix and match some of my experiences in why I think digital identity and identity schemes at large are important, but mostly why my experience has convinced me that the solution to the challenges, the solution to the hardships and really difficult topics that are related to developing country scale identity schemes, and even more so, digital identity, need and require a private public partnership, and importantly, a partnership with the industry. But let's start by why we are here this morning. We are not here by chance. We are here because we probably share the conviction that these identity schemes are important. They matter in more than one way. They matter because they help open up possibilities. They help open up economic development. They allow people to access new services. And I was interested by the chart there. I thought, the financial services coming high up is one of the experiences that we are living now with one of the countries that we're serving, that is Denmark. I'll come to it again later on in my speech. Also, interestingly, we saw that some countries high in the ranking of the poll, we had missing schemes. And so if we turn to why we're here, and I know you've been spending a lot of time yesterday thinking through workshops and discussing experiences across different countries and going through some of the challenges that governments are meeting as they try to think through these identity schemes. The first one for me, again, is that it matters. There is no way, and I like to think of identity and digital identity in particular as a powerful engine for development. And the fascinating thing about it is that we observe that whether you're in the north or in the south, it has this empowering effect on countries, economies, people, opening up new opportunities. But the thing is, it's missing. That's your third vote. Many countries are still missing digital identity schemes. And I even want to say many countries, in some form or another, are still missing identity schemes altogether. My grandma, if she would allow me a personal comment, only 2 generations ago, did not have an identity at all. She was born in an African country 2 generations ago. That means she could never travel. She could never enjoy social benefits. She could, in fact, go to school, but not have a diploma. So many opportunities were closed to her. Today, there is still 1 out of 8 person in the world that is missing that identity. And in Africa, we know that number is important. Now, another one of the challenges is that those schemes are difficult to implement. They're technically difficult. It requires know-how of how you do it, what's the right technology. Once you found the right technology, how do you make sure that over time, these components don't lock you in? They don't operate as silos. They speak to each other. They allow cross-border or even cross-sector communications. How do you make sure that the vendor that you choose doesn't lock you in, right? So making those, building them, and keeping the mastery of them over time is one of the challenges. Another one is controlling them, if I may use this word, over time, preserving sovereignty. taking care of people's privacy and data that's going to be on those servers, on the systems. A few weeks ago, we are all acquainted with a massive data leakage that happened in Morocco, right? And how that has a ripple effect on all of the society, alluding to risks, fraud, and undermining the trust that people have in those schemes and in the state at large. And then the third element is, how do you make them work, right? Much like an infrastructure, when you build a road, if nobody uses the road, what is it worth? If nobody uses for financial services, how is it helping? If nobody uses for healthcare and education, who cares? How is it actually bringing the power of what we expect from it? Those are hugely important challenges in and of themselves. Even more so, as technology advances, we're facing new threats. And among those, I think we can quote artificial intelligence. It has so many opportunities, right? Bringing up so many values. But we also know that it carries a number of challenges. Among those, discrimination. How do you make sure that the models that are learning, the data that's embarked for models to learn, actually reflects the variety of people? How do we make sure it's inclusive? How do we make sure that the databases are not intoxicated and that we are not embarking really morphed faces of people to develop fake, or actually, I should say, true fakes identities? You can sense that I'm speaking out of experience because these are challenges that I personally experienced when I was leading EU LISA. Exactly the ones that I just mentioned. I can tell you how much I can relate to the plight of what it is to be a public sector leader trying to advance these schemes in the world that we're in today, facing all of these questions. But I also think we are faced, as we answer these questions, with many kinds of visions, many kinds of options. We are here at ID for Africa in a place where I think develops and promotes a special vision, a vision that actually focuses on the notion of secure identity as prime, not your password login. That data that can be easily cracked into and leaked out. It is secure identity, most likely connected to government, bringing trust and transparency to people, but also built in a way that's inclusive, in a way that's economically performing, on a business idea that makes it work for the economy, something that opens the opportunity for people, for the use cases that you were voting on just at the beginning of our session this morning. And the vision, and this is where I think words meet. That is built on a partnership between the private and the public space. And this partnership, most likely through the industry, leveraging the power of both worlds, allows us to address and tackle some of those acute challenges that I was mentioning earlier. My own experience is that one. It's not a secret. One of the challenges of EU LISA and that of the EU institutions at large was to bring to life the entry-exit system. And on the basis of the entry-exit system, which is in fact the largest and the most advanced in terms of technology and all of the biometrics that it embarks, one of the most advanced border crossing systems in the world. On that foundation, a number of other systems that you may know by name, ATS managing travelers' flow into the EU, Eurodac managing migrants' flow into the EU. All of those were built in such a way that they were creating interoperability, a beautiful architecture. Now, to implement that, trust me, not easy, because it had to be compliant to legal framework, because it was calling on very, very specific technologies and very complex implementation and coordination of those schemes. So for a number of years, and that was in fact when I came into the trust partnership with my providers to align incentive, to drive them in such a way that they were not drifting away doing their own thing, but their incentives were aligned with mine. That we were solving together and we had a common interest in solving together the challenges that we were facing. That's my conviction. And in fact, if I turn now to the hat that I'm wearing now, one of the reasons where I came to lead the company that I'm leading now is because I truly believe that to be able to empower the public sector with these phenomenal solutions, to bring them to life, it's important that the industry understands what's on the other side of the table. And this unique knowledge, I was telling Joseph, you could almost, believe that the public and the private work together, and I'm the living proof of that. I myself am an incarnation of what public private sector experience together looks like. When that works, that is such a powerful effect. And I'd like to I'd like to highlight how the industry can be leveraged by you in your daily work to work for you in such a way that it helps you tackle those key challenges through what has to be, for these topics, a long term and sustainable partnership. At Iron Group, we serve more than 40 countries across the world, north, south, all together on these items. There is no one solution that looks like the other. We always do it tailor made and close to the needs of our clients. I say we here for Iron Group, but in fact, I speak on behalf of a whole set of industry, and I can see some of the colleagues and friends with whom we share this vision. We work, there is no solution that looks like the other. And we work closely. And our goal is to bring this know how, this experience of having it done so many times so that governments can leverage that expertise and deliver at scale identity schemes to support them. We also, to do that, we invest massively in technology. Ourselves, we invest just about 5% of our turnover yearly and growing. Because what it takes is constantly being at the edge of technology, and not everybody can do everything, right? And so we seek to bring that know-how and expertise to governments that we support and work with. The second element that I have taken away, the key takeaway, I would say, from my experience being, this living public-private partner, I think is the funding item. How you develop innovative schemes to fund those infrastructures, and there are a number of them, right? There are the classics that we know, funded through loans, but there's also public-private partnership that work. For example, I know we've been acquainted with one in Ghana. We know it has worked. We have worked a lot on build, operate, transfer schemes that allow to build local capabilities and find a way to work through the economic equation of what these schemes take to come to life. The third thing is choose your partner, your industry partner well, because our lives are moving to digital. In the physical world, I hold my password, I hold my ID, it's all there. The data is secure, it's in a server locked under a key. As we move to digital, transactions are being complex. Our lives are becoming data. Who owns that data? As a government, how do you maintain sovereignty over that data? I am proud to say that for Iron Group, and I know a number of other ecosystem partners that we work with, we respect GDPR. Our European roots are helping us to uphold a number of respectful frameworks and legal frameworks that create the boundaries whereby we're not allowed to step out. More than that, we rally under a number of standards. And here I want to call out the Secured Identity Alliance, of which Iron Group is a proud founding member, but not only. Under the Secured Industry Alliance, also known as SIA, what we do is we promote a specific vision of secured identity that is focusing on interoperability. What does that mean? That means if you build an engine, if you build an identity scheme, you're not locked in either of those building blocks. You can make them work across other vendors. You can also make them work across borders, working through interoperability. We're most proud of two of our initiatives. One is the OSIA standard, developing just what I mentioned, the interoperability. And the other one is the CD Hub, also working on interoperability for digital identities. Very proud of both for another reason. They were born here in Africa. They were born here through co creation, working with governments. And 2 days ago only, I know there was a very successful government under the CD Hub. And I think we should develop, and we're calling for more of such experiences. And then if I go back to what the industry can bring you, I think there's the notion of how do we make the use cases pick up onto these infrastructure, animating ecosystems. We have been managing the digital identity for Denmark, right? It is a northern country, but it is one of the most advanced and profound use cases heavy platforms. More than 99% of the Danish use it daily. I was speaking to the Queen of Denmark a few weeks ago. She was using it for her kids, for her public sector, to pay her taxes, to communicate with the public sector. Anything she was doing requiring her trust and space and safe space of secure identity was going through that scheme. And that is something where you see the ecosystem is absolutely animated and the country is leveraging what it needs to from the digital public infrastructure it has established. And finally, pick your partner well. There is a way of working together. And I like to think of it being respectful, tailor made, co created, co designed in such a way that, as I was saying earlier, incentives are aligned from the industry or from the public sector. The idea is to find that sweet spot, that space where the partnership works and brings the best of what we're doing to the larger public. And so, as I come to a close on my opening remarks here, I really want to leave you with this message. These topics, these digital schemes, whether they're physical, whether they're digital, they're complex. They're difficult to implement. Let's acknowledge that. And to be able to address them, it's important to bring the power of all the intelligences together. There's a know-how to do that. I trust that mastery is in this room. And I want to speak now on behalf of the living public-private partnership that I represent here. It works. And a lot of us here are ready to represent that way forward. Today, I know, is a day dedicated to that discussion. I wish you a very, fruitful and deep discussion and day of session. I want to thank the ID for Africa Forum and Joseph in particular for having me this morning, having all of us, and creating for us very special, a unique, I would say, platform in the world where we can come together to precisely develop this partnership and grow it in such a way that it works for our people and for your citizens in particular. Thank you for listening to me, and I wish you a great day. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to continue with the use cases. Let's just remind remind those who have not been with us before what the results were. The use cases in the financial sector seem to be the highest um, leading use case that this community thinks is happening in various countries around the world. So, and that's why the very first set of presentations will be focused entirely on the financial sector. I'll remind you also that on Thursday, there is the central bankers who are going to come in and also talk about how they're using the digital identity in their respective countries. So you'll hear about 5 or 6 African countries. Okay, I want to introduce the moderator for this session. He's the managing director of the Somali payment section, Mr. Hussein, Abdullahi Hussein. Could you please come to the stage? And I'll leave the session in his capable hands. This should be a very interesting session, and it is part and parcel of our multiple activities focused on financial sector use cases. Thank you.
Greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to welcome you to the first session on the use cases and the solutions forum. The focus will be on the mother of all the use cases. As you have seen on the screen, the financial services is the major use case for identity. The financial sector offers some of the most impactful use cases for digital identity. This segment brings together four experts who will be discussing this specific use case and also uh, from different perspectives. Uh, I would like to remind all of us that they have only 20 minutes. The 20 minutes include 5 minutes for Q&A. They can forfeit the 5 minutes for the Q&A and continue the rest of the 20 minutes with their presentations. Uh, I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that all the Q questions will be posted on Slido. And to start with the first presentation and engagement, I would like to invite Yared Woldesnetbet, who is the cluster head and Eastern Africa country manager for Ethiopia for Visa, to join me on this stage to address on the topic of enabling financial inclusion by leveraging digital identity. Welcome, Yaret.
Slides. Good morning. Uh, I'd like to say first of all, thank you for the Ditsala ID Ethiopia for giving us this opportunity and talk about our use cases here and ID for Africa, of course. So I'll be talking about uh, financial enabling financial inclusion by leveraging digital ID. Earlier, you have seen the poll telling us that one of relevant use cases for digital ID uh, is financial services, financial inclusion. So it is, fitting for me to talk about that in this forum. My name is Yared. As I introduced, I look after Visa Eastern Africa region and sitting in Ethiopia. So when we talk, we talked about digital ID from yesterday, and I'm not going to define what it is for you, but I want to talk about how how to be how for the digital ID to be relevant. The interconnected systems are very important, especially for financial services and financial inclusion. For the digital ID or for digital platforms to be relevant, all these systems have to start to talk to each other. To name a few, payment, data management, and multiple services should be available. So leveraging, public-private partnership, as mentioned earlier, as in the keynote, is very key, and we are really contributing to our each other's success in this ecosystem. So there are multiple components that should speak to each other for this ecosystem to work together, right? So of course, e-government platform is very key. That will help us, create all, government use cases, government services, and even private services to be available in that platform. But without digital ID for secure authentication and login and a single source of truth, it's also going to be difficult, right? So that is where the integration fits to each other. So digital ID is also very important for these core components to work together. Of course, digital payment is also important because, for the story to end properly or for the use cases to be relevant to all participants in the matter, the termination of the whole process will end in payment. That is where we come in as well, right? So data management is also very important, where the single source of truth should be stored in, and the customers and users will decide what kind of data can be used in the platforms that they are using these services on. Security, cybersecurity is the core of all these. It has to be, the ecosystem has to be protected, and interoperable framework is important for having controls and the available protocols for all these to integrate and talk to each other. So I want to talk about a story, I mean, a success, the ThinkPass story. Allow me to read for you, ChatGPT helped me to tell me about, what significance does ThinkPass in the story of Singapore brought to the country. Well, so what is ThinkPass? ThinkPass is a personal, Singapore's personal access, and it has been established in 2013 and has been evolved through time. And there are, when we talk about the functions, a single secure login for citizens and residents to access over 2,000 digital services. And that is where all the ecosystem talking to each other to provide the service that the customer needs. So there are three components, actually four. One of them is mobile app, where biometrics and document wallet is available. Two-factor authentication for security. My info, which autofills personal data for government uh, uh, records, and digital signing of official documents. So with all these functionalities and components, how did these ThinkPass helped the government? It simplified access to services, boost ecosystem efficiency, e-government efficiency, improved digital payments and transactions using a verified identity for online banking, insurance, and government, and also even to give social disbursements when it comes to COVID relief and things like that. So the fourth, benefit that I have seen is requisite data security and privacy, right? Strong encryption, two-factor authentication is also there, and control of the data, what the control of a data customer that shares to the systems that they want to use their data on. And it also supported private sector in innovation, banking, telecom, insurances for easy onboarding, and KYC. So this is the story that created the financial inclusion of 100%. 100% of the eligible, Singaporeans have access to finance. And there is also the similar story that is unfolding in Ukraine, where we are also helping as a partner, right? So I'm not going to talk about who Visa is. Everybody knows Visa. But one point that I don't want to, leave you without is we have issued 4.7 billion credentials, and we are processing, 15.9 trillion transactions and 310 billion number of transactions. And we also operate in 200 territories and countries. So for the digital ID to be relevant, as we said, and as the poll indicated, and what is really being useful for, the digital ID and digital payment integration is very key. And that is what ensures financial inclusion, streamlines service delivery, transparency and accountability, revenue collection efficiency, because using that in an e-government platform where all these systems talk to each other, it will give relevance to every stakeholder, for the government, it also provides revenue collection efficiency. It's also empowering public-private partnership because we all add value to us, to each other, and there are partnership is a key to bring a workable and relevant solution for our citizens, right? As earlier stated, choosing your partners is also important because go-to-market is also very key at this time and age. So I'm also not going to talk about this more, but there are multiple use cases that are available that a super app of an e-government platform can integrate into and go into different sectors of the society and add value to in our day-to-day life. So I'm going to skip to our use cases. So, as an experience, as a partnership, we have partnered with Digital ID Ethiopia in collaboration with Cooperative Bank of Oromia and Tech5, and we are putting together, a first release. Actually, we will be inaugurating that first release today, this evening, and I think some of you are invited, and we are very welcome. And there is, a value that we are trying to create from the stories that we have learned earlier from Singapore, from Ukraine and other successful countries who have done this well. So in this, what we are trying to do is create after a digital ID is issued, it should be accessed easily and be able to the customer, I mean the citizens should be able to use it in different use cases in everyday activities that they have, right? For authentication, for login, and a single sign-on is also very important because if we have to be relevant in the ecosystem, we don't have to remember our passwords for all those 2,000 or 350,000 digital services, right? That is also very relevant to the customer, to our citizens. So that is one thing that we are trying to do, creating a place where we, give access to the digital ID for the customer, for our users to use them where it is fitting. And it's also an opportunity for us to create, accounts on top of that in this wallet. If you want to create an account with a bank, then you can also create. And it also gives you an opportunity to, to get a payment credential on top of that, so that most of these use cases that will come into this app can be also useful and helpful for you. So we partner with one of our bankers, Cooperative Bank of Oromia, and we are issuing domestic and international cards on top of that, so that to complete the story, right? To use the services, the digital services available in this ecosystem, and make our payments as where it is necessary. So how do we contribute to you? So we work closely with governments in Africa all over. There are a couple of use cases that we are also working on and cooking that will be revealed very soon. But come and talk to us. We have a lot of experiences to share, and there are ways that to forge our partnership and add value to each other. One of them is build partnership. We connect, discuss, and access the need, and that has been my team has been doing the whole day yesterday. It's been very busy, so we can do assess the need, and we can also help you with drive in innovation. Visa is a global huge company who's operating in 200 countries with very relevant partners, also innovative itself, 65 years of experience. So we have also very well-structured organization where consulting is given, Visa Consulting and Analytics. They will help you identifying, the needs in the market and what are the kinds of services and solutions that you would need. We can partner together to create, a better, uh, ecosystem that interacts and talk to each other to create more relevance to our citizens. With this, I thank you all, and you did the time. I think I finished very early. Thank you so much.
Uh, Thank you very much, Eric. You can join me for the Q&A session. We have uh, 10 minutes for the uh, Q&A. First question on Slido says, what is the number one challenge faced by the financial sector in terms of identity fraud?
Yes, so this is where actually there is a lot of identity fraud, social engineering, OTPs, stealing OTPs and things like that can happen, right? Those are the kinds of things actually, especially in a place where digital literacy is not very high. Uh, we are seeing actually most of the time we are seeing challenges not only in the system but also in managing knowledge transfer and understanding of digital literacy in the market, right? So during these are the places where fraudulents come and get customers information through social engineering, or also pretending to be someone from the financial industry and take some of the credentials or authentications to be able to make those transactions. So having a single sign-on, a digital ID, a single source of truth where we will be logging in and making our transactions, will avoid those challenges in the market.
Thank you, Yared. Proceeding to the next question, what biometric modality is must or must be used for authentication in the financial sector? I think you have responded to that question in a certain way. Maybe you can address that again, please.
So when we you see in a digital ID onboarding process, there are multiple biometrics identifications are taken, and those are very key, and it is going to be a single source of truth depending on the service and the platform that we are working on. Those fingerprints, probably facial identification, even iris can be used depending on the size of the service or the app you are using, because some of these identity assets are heavy in data. So depending on what kind of protection you need, those are the things that can be used and can be part of the KYC process.
Uh, the next question, what's the root cause of trust? What's the root of trust used in the majority of countries? Uh, is, a, is it a state-owned biometric database or a private biometric database?
Yeah, so it depends. But then, public-private partnership is very key. So what is usually it's easier to trust, a single source of truth when it is held by the government. Uh, it is my experience, but then I think depending on the use cases, depending on the risk level, all can be used. It is just we just need a resilient and robust infrastructure for that to be very relevant.
Uh, can you explain how the visa and the national ID of Ethiopia partner and how they established this partnership? It's very interesting in terms of triple P engagement.
Yeah. So we believe in partnership, right? So as Visa and as a nation also, we are really in the starting stage, and it is also an advantage. It gives you a leapfrog kind of advantage as well. So our partnership with the national ID is started from consulting, and also in partnership with our financial institutions that we serve in the market. For example, Cooperative Bank of Oromia, uh, we are the best way to pay and be paid anywhere and everywhere. So, as I said, the story is not complete where there is no payment. So we thought that it will be a good partnership to make that ecosystem work. So how we are working is we partner with one of our partner, uh, Tech 5, for the technology provision. We partner with the Cooperative Bank of Oromia for financial services. We partner with the National ID for us to realize the FIDA app, so that all these come together to bring, a workable platform for our citizens. And we are launching it today, so we'll talk about that more.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The next question focuses on the context of Ethiopia. Uh, what is the innovative what are the innovative solutions for digital literacy to access remote vulnerable population, particularly women?
Can you repeat?
What are the innovative solutions for digital literacy in the context of Ethiopia to access remote vulnerable population, particularly women?
All right. Um, a topic that I would probably talk about the whole day. So you've seen a dynamic transformation in Ethiopia. There is a lot of market opening up when it comes to financial sector, and there are lots of changes that is coming from our national bank to make that a reality come to pass. So through that, there are opportunities that was created for the financial industry and for the fintech and for the technology ecosystem in the market to come up and help support this vision, right? I can mention an example which is so close to my heart, where I have also directly involved with on, if you allow me. And it also helps us, picture how digital literacy and women inclusion, financial inclusion is there. Um, with the Cooperative Bank of Oromia, which is my previous employer, we launched uh, a platform called Nuchu, which is a digital lending, right? And right now, I think up to 4.2 million users are there, and up to 20 billion amount of loan has been dispersed on that. And within these, up to I hear staggering number of 70% or 80% of those uh, uh, customers are women. And these are women who are putting together a small business, who does not have access to finance, small loans from 5,000 to 50,000, and started, go to the shop, buy something and resell it in the village, and then grow their business. And I've seen one of one lady who came from Saudi Arabia, who changed her life in the streets of Addis by selling coffee and taking loan from this platform and growing her business from a small coffee shop to a proper shop. So this is the kind of relevance that this digital inclusion is, providing to the country.
Thank you, Jared. That was the last question. If you have any more questions for him, you can connect him with him during the networking sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To invite the next speaker, Mr. Rahul Barthe, the co-founder, chairman, and CTO of Tech5, to talk about enabling digital transformation in Africa with inclusive digital IDs and integrated payments. Welcome, Rahul.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be on this podium again, especially when I'm talking about something that I deeply believe in and connect to. The topic is very long. I mean, the title itself is very long. I wish I could shorten it to say supercharging digital transformation in Africa. The one thing that I would definitely highlight is I'm not here to sell you technology. I'm going to preach an approach. We often hear the phrase, to be successful, it has to be in your DNA. Same is true for a truly leading digital nation. There are many characteristics, but let's talk about some six of those which I think are more vital and important as a building block of this nation. First of all, is people empowerment. It's not a buzzword. It has to really mean something. It has to enable people to contribute, participate, and most importantly, benefit from the digital ecosystem. Trust forms the bedrock of any transaction. I would like to draw your attention to the word bilateral. Trust goes both ways. When people are interacting with their service providers, be it government, be it private sector, we always focus on identity, making sure people not frauding the system. But what about people getting frauded by fake systems? There has to be a bilateral trust. The economy is advanced by means of true financial inclusion, seamless payment integration, which, as we know, leads to explosive digital commerce. The ecosystem is open, which allows collaboration between public and private sector to innovate. In this, we have seen that government as a service plays the most important role. Sustainable growth is vital to keep this system going on. If the digital ecosystem creates value, if it has utility, it will generate value for the country, and then the ecosystem itself will be funded on its own and grow. The last and most important thing for that nation to be successful is to build something sovereign, and it should be agile. Sovereign because of external dependencies. As we know, the geopolitical changes, somebody doesn't like somebody, pulls off the plug. You should be able to be sustainable in those situations, and agile because things are rapidly changing. Digital evolution is happening fast, and your system should be able to change rapidly. The last thing that I would like to highlight is that don't think about it as a program, don't think about it as a platform. Think about an ecosystem. To be successful, you need to make strategic considerations. Don't reinvent. Leverage what's already there. Leverage your existing infrastructure, especially mobile phones and internet. Do not reinvest. Leverage your existing foundational IDs and registries. It's very easy now to convert your data repositories into verifiable credentials. Great standards are being written there. The world is working towards making this possible. From the ground up, build your systems to be inclusive. Make sure not only that the technology is chosen properly, but the standards and the approach is also inclusive. It has to be scalable. I've heard good stories saying that we have an amazing system, but we don't advertise it more because we don't have the money to scale our infrastructure because the users are increasing. That's a shame. And then the third thing is it should not be disruptive. It should work with the system and not against it. Goes without saying, if you make it cross-sectoral and interoperable, it will have the opportunity to create that value chain, as the keynote speaker was mentioning. It gives you the opportunity to align incentives. Everybody in the value chain should benefit. Even if the total impact is less as a positive impact, every person or in the component in the value chain should have a tangible benefit. Last but not least, design your ecosystems in compliance with your data privacy and protection laws. Countless stories. You build amazing systems, somebody writes a new data protection law, and system has to be shut down because it does not comply. Do not make it an afterthought. Consider it when you're building it up. The rollout strategy is the most important thing to really achieve what you are going for. Now, this one may say is applicable to any business, any program. But why do I bring it here? Because it is very important to see the choices you make in terms of standards, the technology will help you to effectively roll out your programs. The first step is implement a low cost, high impact infrastructure, which we defined as Rails, and I'll come to that. Start small, grow smart. Do not aim for the sky. Start with very high impactful services. Make sure the strategic considerations you made allow you to scale infinitely without resistance and works with the existing ecosystem. Start monetizing your services, no harm. As long as you're not taxing the citizens, there is no shame in charging for services and feeding back that revenue into your ecosystems, which will lead to the sustainable growth of your ecosystem. Let's take a very broad stroke, pragmatic approach of how you can do something that takes care into those strategic considerations and will allow you to implement your rollout plan. Go for a cross-sectoral digital public infrastructure. It's a very broad term. Everybody wakes up to it with a different understanding of what DPI is, and we'll talk about it. But generally speaking, it is something that allows you to interconnect the ecosystems, the people, and so on. Make sure digital identity is at the core. Digital identity of humans and non-humans. Do not only think about humans. As I said in the beginning slide, it's an interaction between people and service providers. Both need to trust each other. And the last one I would definitely suggest is a decentralized approach. So what is decentralized? You'll have a lot of philosophy around it. You'll hear a lot about it. It is not about just saying, let's shift the control and make it user centric. It is also about cost reduction. It is about spreading the risk. It is about scaling the trust. The last piece is super important because when you have centralized system, your trust is with a centralized anchor. When you decentralize it, your capabilities of scaling that trust goes infinitely high. Simply speaking, without any technical details, I would say it's a wallet-based ecosystem to begin with. The wallets could be on your phone or could be in the cloud for people who don't have a phone. It starts with storing your credentials and digital assets in those wallets, not in a central server. The credentials and the assets can be cryptographically or biometrically proved that they belong to you. Again, do not have to hit any centralized servers. There are means to selectively disclose things. You can choose who you want to show things to and what you want to show. This allows you to implement the privacy aspect of it. As I said, a lot of international community has spent a lot of effort building amazing architecture, standards, and technology. Adopt those. No shame. Take them. And last but not least, these wallets start to act as a data exchange hub. You do not have to invest in large scale central data exchange hubs. Why is decentralized better? Let's look at it from an economic perspective. First of all, it does not require high upfront investment. You can leverage incremental capital injection into these programs. Do not go sign and with a big sovereign loan. Go and look for big loans from donors. Don't go sign a 10-year contract with big tech go cloud providers. You can start small. That's what the main message is. The decentralized approach gives you infinite scalability against having a slow, complex scaling centralized system. It diversifies risk, whereas the centralized system concentrates liability risk, a lot of cyber issues, and I can go on about it. And again, with a decentralized approach, you can easily leverage the the existing infrastructure. The digital transformation starts here. Implement the foundational rails. I say rails, you must have heard about stacks. It's slightly different approach. I believe in building rails first and then stacks. Number one, start with decentralized digital identity rails. And I will talk in more details about it because that is the trust and anchor. Build notification for real-time communications and targeted messaging. Very often undervalued, but great potential to serve the citizens. Then you build secure data channels, allows you to exchange data, assets, tokenize, money, and you can go on. It becomes infinitely useful. Then layer in the most impactful value exchange, that is payments. And my friend Viaret just spoke about the value, and we saw the poll. I'll talk about it also. You have to encapsulate all of this in a trust ecosystem. Peeling the layer a little bit, the first and foremost, more core important thing is decentralized digital identity rail. Choose your foundational ID as their anchor, if available. If not, build one, or do not shy away from using multiple trust anchors. There are countless use cases of that or examples of that. Make sure your ID the digital ID of the human, and I have to be very specific, is bound with biometrics. Choose the standard and technology that makes it inclusive, interoperable. Use user-friendly wallets for interactions, credentials, assets, and so on. And again, I would emphasize use a decentralized ID approach in the ID itself, a digital identity. Leveraging the digital identity, you're able to establish the trust, the much needed trust between the parties that are exchanging information. So secure channels allows you to exchange valuable, private, secure information. Once the wallets, the phones are capable of storing and exchanging, they become the decentralized data exchange hubs. They act like micro hubs instead of investing in a big data exchange platform. And because of the means of security, selective disclosures, you can achieve the much needed privacy control in these ecosystems. Now there comes the part where what is the most impactful service and layer that actually helps you adopt the technology or the ecosystem, and that is payment rails. By using identity, you can increase your financial inclusion, simplifying how you get access to banking and finance. Yeah, I just spoke about it. It's simple. You should be able to click a few things and get a bank account open, get a virtual credit card, and so on. Use the trust and security to do secure transaction. Strong customer authentication is easily possible with the decentralized ecosystem. This allows you to implement all kinds of payment flows in any direction, government to customers, citizens, C2G, and so on, including now combining this with the services, the payment flows, and biometric security, you can increase your radius of inclusion and services. Everybody talks about AI. AI is a buzzword. Do not separately invest in a heavy AI infrastructure. Build something that is AI ready. And I'll highlight quickly 3 points on AI. This decentralized infrastructure, we have started to look into this, is pro governance. How do you ensure that governments can deliver some value to the citizens even before things happen? AI agents in the wallets allow for digitally illiterate people to also use the ecosystem, voice based commands, chatbots, and so on. And last but not least, meaningful delivery of AI. I said there was a expo just before this expo here where Ethiopians were talking about investing in AI. Imagine that you build a amazing AI system, yeah, and you could classify them into anything in health or financial and so on. How do you deliver it to people? This actually allows you to deliver it very effectively to a common citizen on the street. When it all comes together, you have built a scalable digital ecosystem, one infrastructure, infinite services, allows you to have seamless collaboration between public private sector, effortless expansions. And we'll talk about it when we are successful, but adding services should not take you more than 2 weeks, be it Ministry of Tax or be it Ministry of Agriculture. Maximizing the reach. If you have chosen your standards and technology properly, you will reach to the last person in the country. This will fuel innovation, pull in the much needed revenues to have a self-sustaining living ecosystem. This is not a vision. It's not a blueprint. It is actually happening. I know there are a bunch of countries who are trying something or in parts, but I can confidently say there are at least 2 countries who are going full blown on this approach, and we are proud to be part of it. It's one is Honduras and second is Ethiopia. Both go live in few weeks, I would say. And if you would like to learn more from it, happy to exchange the experience on this. I would also like to encourage you to attend a panel that I'm going to be on day 3 on financial stack. With this, I would like to challenge the leadership. There is a big monumental shift. Everybody's moving towards decentralized ecosystems. Do not get stuck in the concept of is it DPI, is it ecosystem, is it identity, digital identity. Look at your country as an ecosystem. And then I would ask you, are you ready for it? With that, thank you so much for listening to me. And if you have any questions, happy to answer those.
Uh, Thank you very much, Rahul. let's use the extra time to answer the questions in Slido. The first question asks, has Tech5 open sourced their ID system repository?
Right. So open source their ID system repos. Um, it's a little difficult question to answer, but I would answer it in a way saying that we do not hold anybody's identity information anywhere. The systems that we build are built in country for the country with cooperation. The whole decentralized systems are built on the principle of self-sovereign identity. In reality, what it means is that the information, the data, the credentials are only with the citizen, not even with the government. With that, what I mean is that there are different silos of identities. They go into the system, the person's wallet, and he's the sole owner of that credential and then the identity. So we do not, in any point, anywhere, touch any of those informations, and hence I wouldn't say that we have to open those because we don't have anything to open.
Thank you. So that's no. Decentralized digital ID is trending, but is it solving real problems or just shifting control from states to private sector?
Pretty interesting question. It is solving problems. In fact, it was invented because there were problems, because there were big techs. So why did EU write the regulation? Because they were worried about big techs like Facebook's and Google's taking control of the identity infrastructure. The Web3 identity layer is also designed with the principles of decentralization. So I would say that decentralization was invented and it's been worked upon because of the fundamental limitations that the centralized systems and the big techs offer. So the one thing that we would say we are contributing to is that we're taking that amazing standard and the approach, and we are contextualizing it to the global south. We are making it work in the global south where you do not have the liberty or so the privilege and leverages or infrastructure that are available in the north, right? So you have to make it. I saw some questions in the previous session to Yared that how are you addressing for the people who don't are in the remote areas, the women, the digital illiteracy. So the solutions that we are building and offering and working with the government are they work offline, they work without phones. We still ensure that people can become part of the ecosystem. And sorry, the last one is that the states never lose control. It's not private tech. It's owned, operated, and let's say legally owned and operated by the states. We just, are the implementers and help them with the GN approach.
Thank you. Can you explain Tech5's collaboration for building Indonesia's population scale digital identity for the African nations to learn from it?
A very interesting question, very close to my heart. I was the architect for the Indonesian National ID, the world's largest smart card program, 230 million people enrolled. So we were there from day one. In fact, I was part of India Aadhaar also from day one. There is a lot to learn, but it's more from the foundational ID setup. The IDs, the databases are already there, and what you are seeing in Ethiopia is also the FIDA ID, and many countries are establishing their foundational IDs. But where the foundational IDs are done and then ID is created, that's where the next journey of decentralized digital identity begins. And this is where the world now have to start focusing. Yeah, there are some kind of repositories. Now, how do I make the utility of that ID valuable?
The next question relates to one that you have answered. It has to do with the trust anchor. It asks, what is the trust anchor in a completely decentralized digital ID system? Don't you need registries databases for issuance of credentials?
It's a very a question that depends on the country's regulations and laws. There are countries where you have one trust anchor and could be the national foundational ID. There are countries where we have experience there could be multiple data repositories and are trusted as trust anchors. You do or you leverage whatever you have in your country, and there is no one answer. Again, it depends on how the regulations are set up in that country. But the approach that you build the solution should handle both situations. That's the main point.
Proceeding to the third presentation for part one. I would like to invite Owen McShane, the Vice President, Government Relations, Face Tech. He'll be talking about binding humans to identity data and privileges, an introduction to UR codes. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this morning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about UR codes, but before I get into UR codes, I want to give a little background on where I came from and why this is important to me. Right now, I am the Vice President of Government Relations for Face Tech. I'm also an adjunct professor at the University of Albany. I teach classes for seniors and graduate students on biometrics, cybersecurity, counterterrorism, terrorism. Prior to that, or simultaneously while I was still uh, teaching, I ran the investigation unit for the New York State DMV. So I did that for over 30 years. I led a group of 150 investigators, and we were responsible for the New York State DMV system, which is kind of unique. At New York State DMV, we issue 16.7 million IDs, 2.4 million non-driver IDs to rest driver's licenses. And believe it or not, New York State has a little bit of fraud going on and people attempting fraud. So one of the things we did in New York State was we tried utilizing facial recognition. And I brought that into our agency in 2008, and we ran it, and it's still running to this day. In the 14 years I had oversight for it, we caught 37,000 individuals with two or more identities. And these are individuals who had valid IDs to support those identities. So they stole someone's identity documents. They obtained identity documents. So to me, it just highlighted how far people are willing to go to get an ID. One of the things we did with driver's licenses is there's a heavy reliance on physical cards, people presenting physical cards, looking at cards. And one of the challenges is they are counterfeited, and they're counterfeited in large numbers. I had my investigators go out and participate with police departments across our state, with bars, with restaurants, looking for individuals presenting fake IDs. And when we started this initiative about 15 years ago, the primary use of fake IDs was individuals trying to buy alcohol, tobacco, or other products, age appropriate purchases. But it has significantly shifted. Now we're seeing more and more of the fake IDs being utilized for opening credit cards, opening bank accounts, cleaning out someone's bank accounts, purchasing cars, purchasing other things. Some of the images that you see here in front of you is a result of partnerships. When I worked with New York State, I also worked closely with our federal partners, and I asked them to share with us the samples or the volumes of the counterfeit documents that they were intercepting coming into the countries. So driver's license, passports, other identity documents, social security cards, immigration documents were getting counterfeited in large numbers and being sent through the mail in packages. Some were going to college students. It was amazing to see the number of teapots that were being delivered to colleges full of fake IDs, but they were getting intercepted, and just the quality of them were getting higher and higher, and the volume was getting higher and higher. As I mentioned, we did see a big shift from most of the fake IDs belonging to 18 to 20-year-olds to over 1/3 of the fake IDs now belonging to individuals over the age of 30. So we still saw some minor attempts to manipulate cards, but as card stock and card technology has grown, the ability to modify an existing document, it's changed. It's more challenging. Now it's a straight out complete counterfeit that we see more often. So we're also seeing a lot of the federal documents. At New York DMV, you have to present multiple IDs to get a driver's license. So we see counterfeits of passports. We see counterfeits of birth certificates. And trying to link that and trying to match it was a bit of a challenge. At the same time, we have over 550 police agencies within our state, and we have 50 states with large number of police agencies. So trying to get the security features out to them was also challenging. So one of the things I saw with passports and stuff like that is looking at e-chips and stuff like that, but a lot of the e-chips are getting damaged. So we looked at some of the passports with digital signatures on it, which is adding a hash code to a PDF 417. And we attempted that for the first time in 2013. And we added a digital signature to all our driver's licenses, all our non-driver IDs. And we fed the keys to our law enforcement partners. We fed it to TSA. We fed it to any other company that authenticates identity documents. So they could check the digital signature within the barcode to validate that was a genuine issued document. And it really helped us out a lot. Um, we've seen a migration with more jurisdictions adding that, but it highlighted to me how important digital signatures were. Last year, when I retired, I had the opportunity to join FaceTech. And what FaceTech does is they're a biometric verification company. And our biggest business is liveness detection. So we do a lot of liveness detection for financial institutions, banks, government entities around the world. So we have a footprint right now in 55 different countries, and we work closely with a lot of our partners to distribute our products. So one of the things that we developed and released last fall was something new, and it was something that really interested me when I looked at this company. And it's a technology or a protocol called UR codes, as in you are this code. And what it involves is taking a photo and combining it with the data information and putting it into a traditional QR code. And basically, you have a QR code that contains the person's biometric vectors. So you can scan that barcode, scan a photo or the person standing in front of you, or have them take a selfie, and it'll validate that as them. So one of the things we're doing with that right now with this technology is we looked at some of the areas that this could be of use. In the United States, one of the areas, as I mentioned, is DMVs, business of validating it. And as detection of counterfeits got harder, and detecting a counterfeit ID is more challenging, what we're seeing now is a bit of a shift. Instead of counterfeiting an ID, you look for someone who looks like you and you start using that person's ID. It could be a sister, a brother, a cousin, or someone who just randomly looks like you. So we're seeing more of that. So what UR codes allow you to do is biometrically link a physical document or a digital document to an individual person. So we're using this on a variety of documents, and our matching software that FaceTech is using, as I mentioned, is used by several of our federal agencies in the United States, and it's also used by 6 states for their mobile driver's licenses. So basically, as I mentioned, you create a record, it generates a UR code, and you can use that for validation. We have it down to a size of 2 centimeters to 2 centimeters square area, and it contains whatever information you want it to contain. For government agencies, we're providing encoders for them to create their own UR codes at no fee for a government agency. We have validation tools, an app. Any smartphone could validate this. I'll pop up a UR code towards the end. If you take a picture of it, my information will come up and it'll prompt you to take a picture of me to validate it. But this is just a sample one. So as I mentioned, we take the information, we provide the issuing authorities with an encoder. They generate the information. We're not receiving or storing any of the PII. They're taking care of that, and they determine the protocols of how they want to validate it. From the motor vehicle perspectives, one of the big use cases that they're looking at this is remote verification. Trying to avoid having people come into the offices for a transaction if they can do an online transaction with a high level of validation. So as I mentioned, we could do validations with selfies. We have an app, and quickly validates the information for it. We're also looking at adding UR codes can be issued to any type of document. So we have people looking at it for driver's licenses, also for vehicle ownership or transfer documents. We have several countries looking at it right now for passports as a supplement to a chip. So we see a lot of chips getting disabled. This would be another means to validate that passport to an individual. One of the big areas in the United States for it right now is police departments' IDs. We have a lot of police departments across the country. There's no standards for what their IDs need to look like. And I know that's a common issue across the world. So as different police officers are going in and out of different agencies, it's a quick means to validate who they are. We're also working with some partners for healthcare who want to add this to healthcare cards as a means to validate that it is the correct person coming in for services and not someone who just looks like them. So those are the main use cases for it. But as we mentioned, any government agency, any nonprofit, we will share our software to generate your own UR codes at no cost for government agencies. And in addition to biometrically linking the document, it digitally signs the barcode that it was issued by that unique agency. So it's giving a two-factor authentication with that. So I also mentioned the apps. So right now with any standard smartphone, if you open the camera function on it and you look at a UR code, it will pull up the information that's encoded into it and it will prompt you to either take a selfie of that individual or take a photo of that person to authenticate who they are. To kind of streamline it and for high volume locations, we created a free scan and match app that we have on Google and Android devices. You can download it and you'll get a response in about 10 to 12 seconds. So this is my UR code. If you scan that, the information for Owen McShane will pop up and it will prompt you to take a photo of me or use the app for that. All right. I'm going to go for everyone who wanted to take a picture, got a picture. So this is a couple links here. This is the three people from my company here today, Alberto, Trevor, and myself. If you have any questions, please feel free to talk to us afterwards. And if you click on the QR code on the bottom of your screen there, on the bottom left, that pulls up more information about UR codes. So feel free to take a quick look at that. That's it. We'll go to questions. Thank you for your time. I'll leave this up.
Okay, let's start with the Q&A from Slido. The first question for Owen asks about the strategies. What strategies does FaceTech have in place to support the local capacity building and technology transfer in African identity programs?
So the company is. So the company has been in business since 2013. We have a footprint around the world and we have pretty good support methods in place. So if your country is interested in exploring more information about it, we would be happy to assist them getting started.
The next question is in French. Unfortunately, I don't speak French or read. Maybe someone can assist with the translation, please. Or you can proceed to the next one until we get somebody to translate. What are the challenges involved in binding humans to identity and privileges?
So one of the challenges I've seen with this is individuals' reliance on physical documents. So when you have a physical document in front of you and you're holding it up and looking at that person, and that person looks different than the photo in it, are you going to tell that person, wow, you've really gained weight? Wow, you've really lost weight. Wow, you've lost all your hair. Individuals are less likely to have a confrontation that way, so they let it go. I've worked at a lot of events where I see people misidentified, and when we approach them, they're like, well, I didn't feel uncomfortable saying, hey, you gained 100 pounds or whatever the reason is. So this takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. It uses the software to link that individual, and you get a very quick and high match rate if it is that individual.
The next question asks, biometric algorithms open sourced? How can we prevent vendor lock-in with the vendor's biometrics?
Our actual UR code system could be used with other liveness detection systems if you want, but we offer it for free as is with a perpetual lifetime license. and a perpetual lifetime license for the verification system. But if you wish to go a different route with a different provider, we would work with you on that.
Thank you. Nowadays, through tech, people can fake Face ID. How powerful are liveness detection algorithms, and how powerful should they be? Which standard is acceptable? Are there any references you can provide?
One of the big differences with FaceTech is we use 3D liveness. So if anyone took the photo of my UR code up there and tries to take my photo up close with it, it's going to ask you to move the camera back and forth to make sure I'm a living, breathing physical being and not a photo, a morph image, or something else along that lines. So using 3D liveness, we've really helped secure the identity being presented to us.
The next question: are UR codes an option for contexts where chip cards are too expensive? Do you have any examples or proof of concepts for cost-saving potentials?
Sure, UR codes can be printed on any document, so you're basically paying for the ink to produce it. You could print it on a plain piece of paper if you're in a disaster relief zone and trying to identify people, and it uniquely identifies them. At the same time, we've seen it laser etched in polycarbonate. We've seen it printed on a variety of PVC-based cards, and it's read without issues.
What are the ethical issues of facial recognition?
So I've looked at this a lot, studying it while I was using it. And one of the things that we did with it is my concern when I first started using facial recognition in 2008 was potential bias. So we actually hired a university to study all our matches and compare that to the rest of our group. And it consistently showed we were matching proportionately to the individuals. I have not seen a lot of issues with the software that we're using in a controlled captured environment from the DMV perspective. And a lot of those photos, a passport style photos, is what's being used in the scenarios we're talking about. So as long as you're controlling the intake and the capture, I think it helps eliminate some of those challenges.
In high security environments such as the national ID verification or border control, how do you ensure that UR codes cannot be cloned or replayed?
So adding the digital signature to the UR codes prevents that. It will show you who the issuing authority is. For a large scale rollout, we currently provide the facial recognition technology for the US Global Entry Program and the Visa program. And those are both relatively large scale operations and are running smoothly.
Is this technology open source? Can it be run by governments 100% on-prem with no data shared with FaceTech or any other third party?
That's correct. We would provide that government entity with the encoder to generate their own UR codes. It would be digitally signed by them, and they're the only ones who could create a UR code with that unique digital signature.
How do you validate physical wellness of drivers in using remote renewal systems?
So once again, one of the areas that are being looked at for that is doing a liveness check on it. And all around the world, as DMVs, we're talking to some of our associates from Australia, from Europe, from Africa. One of the challenges they have is making sure it is that same person. And traditionally, we're seeing a lot of the DMVs bringing people back in the office to take new photos to physically make sure that. But as liveness moves up and we have the ability to remotely access and validate a person's identity, I think over the next couple of years, you'll see a shift in that direction. The potential to do a remote capture with a high trust level using a liveness detection.
Thank you. This is going to be the last question. Is it possible to use your liveness check SDK in offline mode within a mobile app?
Yes, if you have the scan and match app and you have no connectivity, when it scans the UR code, it's using the information there to do the one-to-one validation. So I have the Scan and Match app on it. We could put it in airline mode and we'll scan and validate the person's identity.
We have a few more seconds. How do you ensure the facial factor? How do you ensure the facial factors are unique while maintaining the size limit for a UR code to work effectively?
As part of the enrollment, it does a quality check to make sure the photo meets our standards. And if it doesn't meet our standards or poor quality photo, it will alert the person creating it to take a new photo or generate a new photo.
Thank you very much, Owen.
Thank you.
We are moving on to the last intervention in this session of a series of very interesting presentations. I would like to invite Rama Mohan Reddy and Dr. Hatwit Mugasa to talk about digitally trusted Uganda, the UG Pass way. Please welcome.
Good morning. I will take you through our journey, the UG Pass, or the digital journey to a digitally trusted Uganda with product UG Pass. Just before I go into my presentation, the journey started about 6 years ago, 6 or 5 years ago, when we were transforming from the existing or this fundamental digital system that were ID system that already was existing, and we're saying let's move to a digitalized system. And the conversations were a bit challenging because we already had a fundamental ID system. And in one of the meetings, the minister in charge asked us, but yes, you are discussing these very good technologies, but my grandmother, my mother, sorry, his mother in the village does not, it does not relate to her. This is someone who registered and as soon as she got her ID, he said that as soon as he got her ID, she packed it in a very good way because it was something so precious to her. She packed it very well and she has kept it for the last, I think it was 10 years. She has never taken it out. Why do we want to force them to come back and register? And our answer was that this is going to be a functional ID. It's not just a fundamental, but it's a functional ID. And tomorrow, the executive director for the national ID shall describe what functionality it will bring. But some of the functions that were coming to be harnessed with this new change was a digital wallet. And this journey was not a straightforward journey, as I will be elaborating. There were some ups and downs, but I will focus mainly on the challenges. Most people will talk about the successes, but it's not all successes all the way. There are challenges that we faced. First, what we presented was a digital wallet that has two major functions: digital authentication and e-signature. Authentication, this is through the national ID, so you are getting your digital credentials from the national ID system and authenticating you as a user. Then you are enabled to sign. So the major functions, as they are stated, was a digital authentication and e-signature system. That's a UG Pass, where it provides strong authentication. It also, to the e-services, at the moment it was only the national ID service. It also provided electronic, okay, I think let me use yes, electronic signature function where you can sign your electronic documents and some integratable features for agencies that already have existing e-document systems and support. And also we, just to mention, we won an award, a global award in 2024, that's last year, a UN WSIS award for presenting it as one of the first digital signature systems in Africa. And that was the layout of the application. It had quite just a few functions, but in operating or meeting the needs of the, how do I change to the next? Well, we had challenges, and that's what I was going to focus on, especially for this session. The major challenge was adoption. How does the person on the street, someone on the day-to-day user, in this example, the mother to the minister, how does this meet her needs? Africa is a diverse nation, and one of the biggest challenges that we have is connectivity. How does this solve the challenges where there's limited connectivity or the services are not easily accessible to the person on the ground? And also, e-signature, is this a function that will be used by the masses? So we sat back and reviewed the challenges. The system was already launched, it was operational, but adoption was low. And we looked at the major challenges that we were facing. One was the internal processes, or the getting the system integrated to the existing services, but also monetizing it. Another was the different systems that were running in silos. This is an e-system. Some of the organizations that we met were already using digital signatures like the DocuSign or any other system that is out there in the market. Then also the integration to the national ID. The National ID Authority was already building a digital ID platform. As we are enhancing, we're not changing any of the functions of the national ID. But there were a couple of challenges that we faced, and we had to sit back and review. So we met stakeholders, key stakeholders within Uganda, and we discussed their views. What is your need for a digital wallet, or a digital functional wallet where the credentials are primary factors for this system to work, or the digital credentials? So through this discussion, we now came up with a version 2. The version 1 was UGPass digital signature. Version 2, what are we doing now? Version 2, we are promoting a ecosystem, a digital ecosystem, where the credentials are the primary factor, or we're giving priority to the digital credentials, or what we would term the those identifiers that would identify someone in a digital ecosystem. 2, connectivity. I think the first challenge that we presented when we're discussing this to the government, their problem was that, yes, we're discussing a digital system, but are we digitized as a country? So how can we come up with a solution that meets the needs of the bigger mass? 3, trust. This is it's a very key fundamental feature for a digital ecosystem. How do I trust your information? So how do we apply trust? So we looked at trust from the beginning to the end, the whole ecosystem. How can we apply trust? And that's where we now brought in the factor of a private key, the PKI, private key infrastructure. So with this new version, we are applying the PKI, but we're also providing the digital credentials in a wallet. We create a wallet which has your identifiable credentials and other services. The other services could be from the lands office, the financial sector. You have some information in the financial sector. So we create a wallet that now puts all your digital credentials in that one digital wallet. Social security need to also provide those credentials in the wallet. Your tax body has some information. All those very key important data sources where there's critical information for a citizen to operate his day-to-day work. We all pull that into a wallet. Then we've created a layer of trust or a chain of trust for all the credentials. So it's not just only the ID, but your land information has also be trusted. Your driving license, we also provide a trust factor for those credentials. And all the e-services that would pull into this wallet. Then there was also a challenge of sovereignty, control. Some of the stakeholders who we met, as one of the presenters stated, that they needed to be a decentralized system. So for some stakeholders, they insisted on having their systems out of the or controlled with all that function of the digital signing or that digital credential function ecosystem to be in their control. So we created a digital gateway, and Mr. Mohan will present it here. But what were we doing? In doing this, we wanted to change the playing to change the ecosystem. But our view was that technology, yes, was meeting the need, but it was majorly a mindset change. Well, the challenge here, what we are solving was the cultural change. As the minister was trying to understand, why do we need a digital ID? It is cultural change that needed to be applied here. So within our implementation plan, we looked at 3 areas. One is having the national cultural or the national climate of change, creating a national climate of change where we are getting key stakeholders and informing them of the need, but also letting them drive that discussion. In that way, we also created the agency of this UniPass future to be deployed. We also had to create a coalition of key stakeholders. I will explain what that is going to come out to. Also, develop a strategy and vision for our movement. Then the second factor was now linking the change with the stakeholders in addressing their key pain points. Then we looked at now implementing. Implementing is now going to leverage all the challenges that have been identified, that's pain points, and letting the stakeholders drive these discussions, not coming from a service provider or an implementing agency point of view. Finally, we now embed all the discussed pain points into the UG Pass as a system or as a ecosystem. Just before I end my presentation and hand over to Mohan, who will now go into the details, it's our vision. Our vision is to have a leading position in Africa and in the world as being the first country to achieve a digital, to achieve a citizen-centric and trusted best digital transformation for Uganda. What does that mean? Well, we intend to deploy chain trust, not a solution. This is a chain trust in the ecosystem. And this chain trust is going to encompass all e-government services. Identity as a key factor of trust or key source of trust, that one true source of trust, but also encompassing all other e-government services. Our target is to have 10 million subscribers within Uganda. This is both online and offline. So the solution is not just only for smartphone or web-based users, but also there will be an offline QR code as one of the presenters has presented. And also, we will have more than 100 service providers integrated. This is the identity services, the land management services, transport services, all those government services and private sectors and banks. Already, we have some banks that have integrated, but this system is already working and we are already utilizing UGPass. Thank you. So I'll hand over to Mohan to take us through the technology.
I think that's good enough for me. I'm not that tall. Thank you, Doctor, for setting the tone. Good morning, Africa. And yeah, I think being the last presenter, you have an advantage and you have a disadvantage. Disadvantage is you have very less time. Advantage is you have less time. Okay, now there's some known factors. Everybody says it has to be an ecosystem approach, it has to be inclusive, it has to be use case driven, it has to be privacy compliant, but the devil is in how. How do we do it? What should be the strategy? What should be the aligned execution plans? That's where is the devil. We attempt to confront the devil in this journey of making the UG pass used by all stakeholders for all use cases. The primary adoption strategy, there are key pillars and key drivers. You call them enablers, you call them drivers. We, like everybody is saying, digital ID is only the beginning. It's not the end. There are a lot of things which have to work together to make the transformation happen. So what is the transformation? Transformation is a digitally trusted ecosystems or digitally trusted economies. So we don't look at the stakeholders as stakeholders like government, businesses, and typical citizens. We look at the stakeholders from the point of view of the roles that they play in terms of achieving the trust in the digital ecosystem. The stakeholders play the roles of document issuers or the credential issuers, relying parties, service providers. So we we develop a common framework for these roles rather than trying to have a specific framework for specific service providers or specific sector. The second point is that we have to address this obviously by segment. So we evaluate the segment, we evaluate the most painful points, we solve it, and we replicate the solved problems in the segment for the rest of the customers. So there is an agility and a repeatability of the use case adoption. Third dimension is that we always look at impact and cascading use cases. We believe that by prioritizing credential issuers as a primary drive will trigger a demand in businesses and service providers as well as the citizens to adapt those digital credentials and thereby verifiability of those digital credentials. In the whole thing, the end game that we believe is that the verifiability of everything that you do in the digital ecosystems has to be legally permissible in the court of law when if required. That's the end game. Unless the regulation or the compliance is not taken into confidence, it remains as a technology piece, and technology pieces don't achieve the transformations fully. And we prioritize use cases. We don't randomly throw ourselves at anything and everything that we see. Obviously, we did that to learn that no, this is not the way to do it. Yeah. So therefore, we learned that the use cases have to be prioritized based on the impact, the percentage of population it covers, and all the criteria. The vehicle. What's the vehicle to drive this transformation? And we extremely and strongly believe that unless there is an empowered vehicle, institutionalized and empowered vehicle, the transformations will be, again, it will end up with silos. So therefore, we are in the process of, under the leadership of Dr. Harpreet and Nita, we are in the process of setting up the Center of Excellence, which drives the transformation of this into a program and use case innovations, capacity. And somebody asked a question, how do you build the capacity in Africa? So this is when we creating the demand for these services, how does it get into sustainability? Unless you have local competencies and capabilities and capacities, sustainability will come under the question. In addition to generating revenue, you need competencies and capacity to sustain the entire program. And there's set of host of use case categorizations that we do and then prioritize. We almost productize the use case implementations because the tech piece is one side of it, and the like one of the speakers mentioned, integrations are the most complex stuff. So we kind of productize the integrations. We developed something called an enterprise trust gateway, wherein all enterprises can set up their trust gateway in their network within their IT perimeter and manage all their privileges, the users, the right, the services provided, services consumed, the entire lifecycle management of adapting trust by an enterprise is managed by the trust gateway. In addition to that, especially with the remote signature and those capabilities, most of the organizations do not allow their documents and data to go outside of their perimeter. So this approach enables them to maintain their documents within the network, yet complete the remote signature processes. Just to give a glimpse of what it could be, I know this is a bit of a tech. I just wanted to leave this session with this is a glimpse of one of the pieces of the tech stack that we have built for Uganda, and we are proud to get associated with NITA. And I must tell you one thing here about Doctor. He's a person who leads by example. He's one of the most the most effectively using user of UG system, UG pass system. Thank you very much. And then, okay, about us, whatever we talk, we do. And now I think the bell is up. So thank you. And in case anybody wants to take a deep dive and discuss further, we are at Pavilion 240, booth 40. You're more than welcome to come visit us, discuss with us the details required. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the close of this session. We have run almost 10 minutes to 15 minutes into the networking session. I would like to thank all the speakers, Yared, Rahul, Owen, Mohan, and Dr. Hatwig. Thank you all. And I'd like to use back the microphone to the MC.